Hey everybody, it is your KW Tech Trainer Brooklyn, and today we're going to talk about how to start an opportunity. It's super easy, and there's actually two ways to do it. Today in this short video, I'm going to talk about starting an opportunity using the opportunity board. How we get there is on the far right-hand side of the screen, we're going to click on the icon called Opportunities. It's the two shaking hands. When we click that, it's going to bring us to the opportunity board, also known as your sales pipeline. Now, I'll talk about what all of these are in a different video, but for right now, I just want to show you how to get started with your transaction by starting the opportunity and then launching into DocuSign. So what you're going to do from this screen is you're going to come over to the big green button on the right-hand side that says Create Opportunity. Once we open up that, we've got several fields we need to fill out on this dropdown. If you're associated with different market centers, you're going to select the market center that transaction is for, okay? If you're on a team, you'll select the team here. Then you'll select your opportunity type. Now, it's really important that we pause here for just a moment. If I hit this dropdown, you're going to see that we have opportunity types: listing, buyer, landlord, and tenant. When you select a listing type, you cannot change it later on down the road. Okay, that means if I select listing and it's actually a buyer, that means that I have to cancel and delete this opportunity and create a whole new opportunity for a buyer. Okay, so keep in mind, as you're creating these opportunities, you need to be mindful. Is it a listing, buyer, landlord, or tenant? For now, we're just going to say this is a listing. It'll ask who the owner is. This will always be you unless you're on a team, and then it can change. It's going to ask you who the client is. Okay, this is another important place to pause. If you haven't added the client into your contacts database, they will not show up here and you will not be able to create the opportunity for them. Okay, so make sure they're in your database as a contact before trying to add them to the opportunity board. I'm simply going to click here and I'm going to start typing my client's name. Notice how it gives me everybody that starts with the name Brooke. I'm just simply going to select myself, and then I'm going to come over here to co-seller. It's the same thing. I'm just going to type in their name, and then I can select them from a drop-down menu. Now, some transactions have more than 2 people involved in them. Don't worry. In Command, you can only add 2, but when you get into DocuSign, you can add more people to sign a document than just 2. Command just lets us add 2 because how many people's involved in the transaction isn't as important in Command as it is in DocuSign. Okay, now you're going to name the opportunity. The name needs to reflect the address that is being sold. So if this is 123 Main Street, Johnson City, Tennessee 37604, then it needs to say that address there. It also needs to state your side of the transaction, who your people are. So if I'm the listing agent and this is my buyer's name, Brooklyn Arevalo, then it needs to be the address dash their last name dash listing. If it's a buyer, it needs to say the address that they're buying dash their last name dash buyer. Well, what you just need to remember is when you have a buyer, you're not always going to have that address when you start the opportunity of what they're buying, because they're probably going to look at several different properties. But don't worry, you can always change the name of the opportunity in the details section of the opportunity later down the road. You also have a custom tags section where you can add tags that relate to this opportunity. This is not the same as the tags that are for contacts. You make these tags into what helps you keep track of your transactions. For me, I like to tag my listings with location. So I'll give them the tag Bristol, Mountain City, Johnson City, just so I have an idea of where they're at. And for my buyers, I usually tag them with the kind of loan type they have. VA, USDA, conventional. That's just a trigger in my mind that, oh, I may have some extra steps if they're a VA or a USDA. You have your estimated close date. Notice there's no star beside this, so it's not required to continue with the opportunity. You have estimated listing price, so you can go ahead and throw in there what you predict to list the property for. For a buyer, it's going to be their pre-approval rate. Then you have the commission rate. This is very important, okay? Your commission rate is your side of the transaction only, okay? You may have the sellers under contract for 6%, but when you sell that, you're actually only getting 3% unless you have both sides. Best practice is to assume you're only getting one side. Later down the road, if you do have both the buyer and the seller and you don't wish to create separate opportunities for them, you can come back in here and change this from 3 to 6. Then you have the opportunity phase and stage where you can place them on your opportunity board. I'm not going to talk about those two things in this video. We'll talk about those later. Then from there, you're simply going to hit the create button at the bottom of your pop-up. That's then going to launch you into the opportunity details section. Notice this is all the information that I entered in on my pop-up. Now, if I hit the edit pencil here above general information, I can open up a pop-up, and here's where I can change that opportunity name if I have a buyer and need to add an address later down the road. There's also additional information down here that wasn't on our pop-up. If you add the time frames to this general information, Command can run an algorithm for you in the background to give you a conversion rate of how long it takes you to set the appointment with your client to the day they sign their agreement, to the day you get them under contract, to the day you get them closed. So that's handy if you care about your conversion rates. Moving right along. Now, the next thing we need to do from here is we need to start our transaction in DocuSign. It is always very important that when you have a new client, you always want to start the opportunity in Command and then move to DocuSign. How we do that is we select the Documents tab within that opportunity. It's going to launch us into a screen like this. And over on the far right-hand side, you're going to see something that says Start a Transaction. If you click Start Transaction, it would then launch you into DocuSign and create that room for you to begin using documents. Remember, start the opportunity in Command and then launch into DocuSign. That will create the room and information will be able to flow freely back and forth between the two systems. If you start in DocuSign, you can't connect it to Command later down the road. Have to start in Command and then move to DocuSign. I hope this has been helpful, and if you have any questions, please let me know.